Hey, welcome to the old Firebird Restoration Station, Vinyl Village Garage. We got the great pumpkin in here torn apart. We're going to start tearing into the oily bits, the engine over here. This is a Pontiac 350. It is 1968, so it's the right year for the 68 Firebird that we're building, but it's not the original engine, unfortunately. So maybe we should put the 455 in it. Nah, we're going to stick with the 350, hopefully. But we had a problem with this thing smoke when we started up. So we've got a little bit of blue smoke that came out. So we've got an oil burning problem, potentially. Hopefully it's nothing major. Maybe it's something, maybe the rings are a little sticky in it. Hopefully it's not a valve seat issue. We got some head issues that way, and that may change what we actually do with this thing. But that's what we're going to tear into today. Tear into this engine, maybe discover the why it smokes and come up with a plan for repairs. And of course, something else is going on in the garage. I just can't place my finger on it, but I feel like something's missing. But maybe you could help me out with that. But nonetheless, let's get busy, tear into this thing, and see what we can learn. Now, for some reason, it seems to be that we have a little more room to work in here. So we'll take full advantage of that. We're going to pull this back because my engine hoist, well, it's buried in the corner, and I'm going to need it at some point. So until then, I'm going to pull this thing back and have a little more room to work. And bricks. And more bricks. Those guys are the best. All right. Oops. There we go. Now I get my engine hoist out. So ta-da. All right, here's what I'm wanting to do. Now, I'm hoping this engine is good. The goal is to reuse it potentially. That was the hopes or the wishes. But I think the thing to do is just pop the heads off. My biggest concern is to say the valves. They have flame-hardened seats from back in the day. But let's just use your imagination. A couple valve jobs later, that flame hardening isn't very deep into the metal. I have had Pontiac heads. Well, unfortunately, you don't run the unleaded, I guess you run unleaded fuel in it. That lead was supposed to help cushion the valves, but it will just hammer the valves into the heads and destroy the heads, essentially. Now, you could have them reworked, but we're talking about 1968 low compression 350 heads. Probably not worth having them repaired. So I think what I'd like to do, pop the heads off so we can look at the valves and see if they've actually sunk into the head. But in order to do that, then we got to pull the intake off. I might be able to sneak it without taking the exhaust manifold off. That's even cooler. Then we'll look inside the heads there. So it should go pretty quick. But first off, we'll remove the intake and the valley pan and see what we can find underneath that. All right. We'll start pulling the distributor cap off. That should be easy. These wires look relatively new. I may just reuse them. And the spark plugs look new. All right. Now let's see what's under the valve cover. I might tell some of the story. If it's all sludgy and sad, it may need a bunch of engine work. If it looks clean, maybe it's just stuck rings. Well, that's good. At least it's on there. A little sludgy in here, but not that bad. Okay. Looking inside here, it actually looks pretty clean. There's not a bunch of cakey, cruddy buildup. There's a little bit of residue, but that doesn't look too bad. And of course, probably I think you just found the problem. The engine's the wrong color. Actually, we'll get this all back together. We're going to paint that back to the correct Pontiac blue. So I'm going to get the other valve cover off. Let's get the intake torn off, and then we'll see what it looks like underneath that. Let's see what we got so far. Got most of the accessories all pulled off front. Did get the other valve cover. Intake is pulled loose. Looking around in the intake ports, actually looks pretty dry. These are the back of the valves here. They're not all oily, so I don't think it's a valve guide or valve seal issue, because normally when they get really bad, those would be really super oily. Those are the valve. Like, so you can kind of see the vertical valve down there in that port. Not oily. So, maybe it's a ring issue, but I thought they were going to pull the heads here and take a peek. Those look pretty good, actually. All right, what I'm going to do next here is we're going to pull all the push rods out. Now, I'm not sure 100% the fate of this engine at this point yet, but I've always been taught all your cylinders have their push rod and the lifters. You don't mix them up. If you plan on reinstalling any component that is used, you put it back where you found it. So we're going to take a little piece of cardboard here, stab the box. And that means forward or Firebird wheel drive or whatever. This points forward towards the front of the engine. We're going to take the push rods out one at a time and stab them in the box. And I'm going to put the rocker arms loosely back on the studs for now. That way they stay sorted out until we determine the fate of this engine. Ready for these. All right, let's pull the head off here. That's kind of where I'm down to now. Pull the head bolt. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so let's see that. Coolant dumping everywhere. So, note to self, probably should have drained that, but that's okay. It'll clean up. Let's see if I can get this off here. What's the header on it? And the answer is going to be no. Well, so the header just won't clear the control arm. I knew better, but I was hoping I'd be able to sneak that thing out of there, but it's just not going to happen. So let's get the header pulled off there. Then pull the head. Okay, so after several words of positive encouragement to myself, remove the header first. I've never actually tried to pull the head off one of these with the header still on it. Epic fail. The bolt here will not clear the pipe. So I got all the bolts out but the last one here. So now I believe we're ready to pull the head off and take a peek inside. So I guess I'm going to say not perfect every time, but just about. So there we go, round two. And ta-da! Gosh, this is heavy. Alright. Oh, well, let's get you in here and take a look. Alright, first thing we're going to take a peek here is at the cylinder head. What we're looking for are these valves sunk into the head, but I actually have a bit of a valve edge on that one and that one. Yeah, that one looks okay. That one's okay. Now this combustion chamber is a little different color. But it's still kind of chalky, so it's not oily. And then this might just be wet from coolant, I hope. No? That might be oil. I don't know, the valves aren't sunk into the head, so do a little further investigating here, but not looking too bad. Now, let's take a peek inside here. Being that it has valve release, I'm gonna guess this thing's been bored over. I don't know, 68 350s off the top of my head, but I don't believe they had a valve release. That's typically a replacement piston. There's a little notch here for forward, it looks like. Oh, that's not good. That one's that way. That one's this way. Oh,
Now, technically, you typically have an arrow or a notch pointing towards the front of the engine. That's not the case here. So something funny is going on with the pistons here. So someone must have pressed the rods on wrong, possibly. So this might get spendy. Don't like that. That's not going to cause a problem right off the bat, I don't feel, but I definitely don't like that. So I think we'll pull the other head off and see what we learn over there. The other head came off with the manifold still attached, so you can sneak those out. Not so much with the headers. And look at my horrible mess I made on the floor. Looking at the valves here on the driver's side head, same thing. None of them really recessed or sunk into the head. You got a nice ledge on all of them. So I don't think the issue is with the valves or the cylinder head. Same thing, I don't see a bunch of oil. Even the exhaust here is actually really dry and clean. So I don't think it's a valve seal issue. But what I am finding, again, the pistons are orientated not so good. There's that notch. That should be facing towards the front. Rear. Let's see. Oh, we got one right. Front. And I can't even make out a notch on that one. That's not reassuring. Even that actually looks like a different piston altogether. Look at these. These valve reliefs are deeper and almost like a, well, maybe a wider pass. These are little tiny things. So we've got 7 different pistons. 8th one's an oddball. But what I'm seeing though, cylinder walls. There's actually one heck of a ridge. And we're very pitted up in the cylinder walls. Lots of pitting. So I'm going to say we have a ring problem. We also have a piston problem. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this engine. At this point, it's going to need 8 new pistons, bored out, if it can be bored, because it's already been bored once. So need to look for things like core shift, because what'll happen is when they cast these blocks, things move and they start punching holes in it. This isn't a good sign. See how close that lifter is to the front versus the rear? That means when they punched all the holes, it may be shifted forward, and you may not be able to bore it again. It may be too thin the cylinder wall, so we may have a junk engine. So not sure, again, how I feel about that, but that's not looking too good. Then we'll take a peeper back at this side here. You can see the same thing. That is very close to the leading edge of that lifter bore. A lot more meat on the back. So I'm telling you, this thing has possibly a core shift issue. I don't think we're gonna be able to punch this one out. And the same thing, we got quite a bit of rust here in these cylinder walls, so I'm gonna say I think my smoking problem is a relationship of the cylinder wall to the piston. So all right, engine update. We have completely 100% confirmed this is garbage. Between the core shift, already been bored, and some other issues, we're not going to be able to use the engine, but I did finish stripping it down. While doing so, I found some interesting things here. Clearly, this is an automatic transmission, though this car was configured with an automatic, but we know this is a 68 350, but it was for a manual transmission. It has WC stamped on the front of it. And as you can tell here, it still has the pilot bearing in the back for the transmission input shaft, but it's actually seized up tight. It doesn't even move. Didn't need it for the Slush-O-Matic here, because it didn't move either. And then the other thing that's kind of cool here is digging around here at the front, pull the timing cover off, and check this out. I haven't seen one of these in, well, probably for never. The timing chain set. The upper gear is actually nylon. They use these pretty common at one time because for noise, but I don't trust them. I just don't like them. I don't think anybody even makes them anymore. And I guess I don't really care because I'm not going to use it. But I might keep that for show and tell because actually it's in decent shape. And the other thing I found out here when I pulled the oil pan off this thing, if you look down here in the sump, this is gross, but it's actually a very thick, tarry, sludgy gunk. There's almost a 1/8 inches slurry in the bottom of this oil pan. And I start looking at the whole engine, it's everywhere. This is all metallic. So we have some serious metal on metal wear somewhere going on inside this engine. So all the more reason it's probably time to abandon shipping this old 350 and come with plan B. Yes, there you have it. Not the best news on the Great Pumpkin engine. I think she's pretty sick, unfortunately. And learning what I know about core shifting, I've never seen one quite that bad, so I can't really make the call whether it's a pass or fail, but it's not looking good. This engine may be a boat anchor. Do a little more homework on that. In the meantime, work on getting the engine and transmission off the subframe and clean up the coolant mess. I don't think you guys want to see or follow me on that part of it, but I want to say a huge thanks to all you devoted viewers and followers so far, the old VVG. Get a handful of you, hit that button, watch it, like it, send me some comments, and I really appreciate the feedback. You guys make make me feel that what I'm doing is definitely worthwhile. I hope to keep doing plenty more videos, and appreciate you guys letting me know how I'm doing. And of course, the few of you that I found at the Trans Am Nationals and Tip City Cruise made that trip even more amazing. You guys come say hi and visit me. I really appreciated that. Makes me, like I said, feels good that I'm actually making a difference, hopefully. But nonetheless, I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up. I'll do some homework, try to figure out how the heck we got 2 different pistons, why they're in wrong. Is it worth trying to bore it? Or come up with a plan B, like the 455. That's mine. I'm probably not going to give that up for this car, and I don't think he needs quite that chaos under the hood. So nonetheless, I've said enough about that. Appreciate you following me on the journey. If you could, please hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Like, share with your friends. Like to see this thing continue to grow. And of course, you got to get the great pumpkin picked up from the media blaster and then clean up that mess right there. I appreciate you following me on that journey. I'll get the camera out here next time. We'll see you guys then. And of course, in the meantime, you guys stay safe. And I'm going to drink a couple Orange Mountain Dews.